Not on my bingo card for today, but Sony is making some headlines as they uncharacteristically kind of laid it all out, praising the competition while making headlines with who they applauded and also who they pointed the finger at. Now, we've also got a bunch of in-game events to go through along with what some of you have been requesting, an update on my ban. If you're new here and want to help support the channel, please hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell. If you're on mobile, please swipe left on your comments to hype the video as we dive into the latest from Helldivers. Okay, we've got a lot to make it through today, and by the way, GG's to all the divers out there who participated in that odd Illuminate major order to hold both Andar and Asparath Prime, as of course we were successful, with both of those planets being buffered by several Helldivers controlled planets, so there was really no doubt of us winning that one, but the supplies were secured and now the reconstruction of Mega City York Supreme can begin. Of course, as one major order ends, another begins, and I've never seen one quite like this, or at least the backstory for this one is one we've never seen. Here's what it says. The Center for Citizen Surveillance and Safety has released a disturbing report. Several domestic planets are rife with dissident activity. Oh no. The evidence is undeniable. Low enlistment rates, high sick day usage, unconventional haircuts, and reports of antisocial behavior. Indisputable indicators of dissident infiltration. Immediate action is imperative. A state of patriotic emergency has been declared on Yelavar, Alta 5, and Deluvia. The Ministry of Unity has activated loyalty, intervention, and enforcement squads to find and apprehend the traitors hiding in plain sight. Seaf outworld garrisons have been pulled back from outer defenses to these planets to maintain order until the crisis is resolved. The Center for Citizen Surveillance and Safety must be expanded as soon as possible. The Helldivers are ordered to secure 15 million Illuminate samples and 62.5 million automaton samples, which will be used to aid development of surveillance technology. This order ensures that the government protects loyal citizens by faithfully maintaining the unity of the Federation. So the long and short of this one is that we have a 7-day major order on our hands in which we have to be holding Mastia when this thing ends, which by the way, we currently do hold, but it is in automaton territory, and we have to also secure 15 million samples from Illuminate controlled planets and 62.5 million samples from bot planets. Again, the lore of this one was what was completely different, pointing towards antisocial behavior, high sick day usage, and low enlistment rates, which, as we've seen from the narrative team in the past, these things are usually parodies of real-world events. In this case, probably pointing towards few players logging in and or buying the game, along with some anger now spilling over into the in-game text, which I'm not going to post here, but the Helldivers Reddit is starting to have these show up left and right. Also, we've seen plenty of sample major orders in the past, but this one has the added twist of having the requirements from specific faction planets. Now, I spent a little time last week diving both of these factions, and I have to say, at least for me on PC, the stability and performance was noticeably better, as the sound was staying pretty much intact and not skipping and or just dropping out completely, and the frames were better than I remember. Now, it's still not perfect, as when one of my teammates would set off, for example, a 500 kg or an orbital napalm barrage, I would lose something like 15 to 25 FPS until the attack was over, but again, it was better. Here's an excellent question for you, my viewers. What faction of those two, Illuminate or Automatons, will you be diving first, and why? Drop me a comment, because I'm always interested in reading what the community has to say. Speaking of that mention of heavy use of sick days and low enlistment rates, I'm thinking the narrative team was focusing in on the current player counts, which at the time of this recording were low. How low, you ask? Well, since I was there, I'm going to say close to escalation of freedom player count numbers. Total across all platforms was just a smidge over 28,000 divers, with PC divers accounting for nearly 17,500 of those logged on, meaning there was only about 10,000 console divers split between PlayStation and Xbox still left in game and dropping in. Now, this is a far cry from some of the monthly active user reports I've showed you in a previous video, with Helldivers charting at number 14 for PlayStation, number 7 for Xbox, and number 1 for Steam for the month of September. In fact, according to Newzoo, Helldivers 2 has now fallen out of the top 20 for PlayStation in the month of October, while it currently sits at number 23 on the Xbox charts for most played games. Clearly, the halt to all the new content to fix the lingering issues, along with recent changes to weapons and such, along with plenty of well-performing new titles on the market, has taken its toll on the player base, but we all know that Helldivers is a seasonal game, and anytime they release new content, the players will come back, they'll get their fill of it, and then they'll slowly fall back off. We did see a small update to the known issues board a few days back, with terrain deformations not working on PS5, parts of our Helldiver armor blocking the scope of the Plas 39 Killzone accelerator rifle when in ADS mode, and city defend events not showing the correct Super Earth controlled city biomes, along with the regulars we've seen in the gameplay section of the board for some time now. Also worth mentioning is that the PC backend has been seeing a whole host of changes, reaching double-digit changes per day and pretty much every day this week. Now, no announcements yet as to what these changes are, but at least we do see that they are changing something. Having a weekly studio-sponsored Arrowhead blog post update outlining the changes that are being made along with the progress of current in-testing items would be a great play here, and it's a solid suggestion for the dev team, but the only real changes I can find here are with the job openings, which include Craft Manager, never heard of that one, IT Manager, Senior Technical Artist, Senior Narrative Designer, Senior Gameplay Programmer, and Chief Tech Officer. And at least for me, I see buzzwords like Manager, Senior, and Chief. And it makes me think that these are high-level positions that were previously held and are now vacant, or these might be Arrowhead finally boosting its staff with experienced new members to try to get Helldivers back on track even faster? Full disclosure, I'm not a game dev, and I've never worked for a studio, but maybe anyone that has can comment on the level of these positions and what effect they could have on the studio being filled or vacant. Drop a comment and enlighten us all on the inner workings of studio life. I also wanted to mention this because it came in while recording today's video, but in line with our current mega city rebuilding major order, the Helldivers are once again tasked with casting our votes on what to rename this new metropolis. This poll can be found over in the official Helldivers Discord, with the current choices showing like this. First up, you've got New York Supreme, York Undying, Vengeance, Libertasium, Torch to the Stars, and finally, Bernard. 3 guesses as to which of these is currently in the lead, of which you'll probably only need one of these guesses. And if you guessed Bernard, you'd be right, which should come as no surprise since the Helldivers once voted for and named a city Gun. Head on over to the Discord and cast your votes today. Sony is back in the news, this time on the heels of their Q2 fiscal year 2025 financial report as relayed to investors, with some really big names showing up and both excelling and falling flat on their faces. As Windows Central puts it, quote, Helldivers 2 is a huge success, while Destiny 2 falls short. Sony's expectations of Bungie don't magically equate to revenue. In the most recent financial report to investors for Q2 fiscal year 2025, Sony gave a surprisingly transparent look at the state of its gaming business. Xbox was even mentioned by name, which is still a rarity in these updates. Sony's full-year guidance remains steady despite several headwinds. Sales are now forecast to rise 3% to around, listen to this, $29.8 billion. Driven primarily due to the impact of foreign exchange rates. Operating income also stays at roughly $3.3 billion even after Sony absorbed a $200 million tariff hit this quarter. Sony highlighted the continued health of the PlayStation ecosystem. Monthly active users climbed 3% year-on-year to 119 million. Wow, that's a lot. And total playtime increased 1% across the quarter. Live service titles continue to play a major role in this with, quote, more than 40% of our first-party software revenue. Wow, 40% of Sony's first-party software revenue comes from live service titles, now coming from reoccurring live service games. Against that backdrop, Sony contrasts two of its biggest ongoing live service bets. Helldivers 2 has surged after launching on Xbox, while Destiny 2 continues to fall short of expectations and contributed to a major impairment at Bungie. Helldivers 2 released on Xbox on August 26, 2025, and early estimates showed just how strong that launch was. A report suggested it sold more than 900,000 units in its first 6 days on the platform, a fact that I reported here the day it happened on the channel. For comparison, its original PlayStation launch was estimated at around 633,000 units in the same 6-day window. The momentum continued well beyond week 1. Helldivers 2 charted in the Xbox Most Played charts through September and October, both of which I reported on here in today's video, which showed that interest did not slow down after the initial burst. It became clear that the game had found a large new audience on Xbox and that the cross-platform move was paying off. Sony confirmed this in its Q2 fiscal year 2025 report by saying, quote, Helldivers 2, which also released for Xbox in August of this year, is doing extremely well, not only attracting new users on Xbox, but also seeing increased engagement from existing users on PS5 and PC. I would argue this fell off sometime at the end of August into September, but let's continue on. This resulted in a significant increase in sales of the title year on year. That much is a fact. The wording suggests Sony may not have expected such strong performance on competing hardware. It also raises questions about how Sony might approach future releases. With Microsoft preparing an Xbox PC hybrid console, PlayStation games will already be available on the device through Steam. Releasing more of its older titles directly on Xbox Series X and S could be a logical way for Sony to capture extra revenue without risking its own platform strategy. Here's where the Sony and Bungie tie-in comes in this fiscal report. They said in 2022, Sony made an all-in bet on Bungie. It acquired the studio for, and I always just stop and stagger at this number, $3.6 billion. That's right, they acquired the studio for $3.6 billion with a B and allowed it to remain operationally independent. However, in May 2025, Bungie came under fire. Marathon, its upcoming extraction shooter that already faced a mixed reception, was found to contain unauthorized use of an independent artist's work, meaning they stole the artist's work. Let's just call a spade a spade. This led to the studio to apologize and commit to a full audit of its assets. Not long after, in August this year, Sony said that Bungie's autonomy was becoming, quote, lighter as integration increased. That meant we spent a lot of money on buying your ass and you are not making the Benjamins. Now, during Sony's Q2 fiscal year 2025 briefing, it directly addressed the decline of Destiny 2's performance by saying, regarding Destiny 2, partially due to the changes in the competitive environment, the level of sales and user engagement have not reached to the expectation we had at the time of the acquisition of Bungie. And if we just take a look at the Steam chart numbers, yeah, we can see that Destiny 2 is not doing very well these days. Let's continue on. They say, while we continue to make improvements, we downwardly revised the business projection for the time being and recognized an impairment loss, I believe it was for $200 million, against a portion of the assets at Bungie. That's not that Bungie lost $200 million. It's just Sony stating that they overstated what they thought they were going to make, and they are devaluing that projection by $200 million. Sony's Q2 FY 2025 materials confirmed the size and source of the financial hit. The report lists an impairment of around, there it is, $204 million USD, specifically in connection with Destiny 2, along with a further $180 million USD in development cost corrections inside the game and network services segment. Sony said it recorded the impairment after Destiny 2 failed to meet the expectations it had when it acquired Bungie. So, big numbers still being put on the board for Helldivers 2, which, let's be honest here, we knew coming off of those crazy high player counts when we had the back-to-back ODST Warbond and, of course, Xbox joining the Diver Army. We also get to see what is happening with Bungie, which at one time was Sony's darling acquisition, evidenced by that massive price tag. Destiny 2's content has been hit or miss, mostly miss. Core functions and legacy content has been vaulted, and in general, it seems like a weekly speed run between Bungo and its player base on how quickly they as a studio can piss them off. To be honest, I haven't touched Destiny in years, but I used to be a regular back with Destiny 1, raiding every week up to when the Taken King dropped, but I fell off after that. If you are still actively engaging with Destiny 2, drop me a comment and let me know what it's like over there. And finally, because I know I've been receiving DMs and questions and even pings from other concerned creators, all asking for an update on my ban from the Arrowhead Content Creator Program, aka the Propaganda Commanders. Now, first off, about 10 days ago, there was a little-known post made to the official Helldivers Discord server info channel announcing the Commanders program, who was operating it, streamers connected, and it kind of laid out the expectations of the participants and that they would be opening up this program to new applicants in the future. So, at least those of you that had doubts as to whether it was an Arrowhead-run program or some shadowy organization, there's your answer, and it is truthful. Now, as it relates to me, the TLDR is that we have spoken multiple times since my removal from the program, and an investigation was made, and some changes were made to the organizational aspects of the program, along with these new rules you can see for yourself over in the Discord. As far as me and my participation and the thought of coming back, well, not yet, as there were a couple of points I expressed concern over that we haven't been able to move past together. What was done to me and how it was done could best be described as unprofessional, and it's only natural that I look at re-entering the program with skepticism. I'm not saying it's a 1000% no, it will never happen, but I need some of these important details to be solidified before I even reconsider it. But I do thank all of you who have been reaching out and checking in on me. I mean, it really means a lot to me. Looking to the future, and hopefully we get another update and patch to the game next week. And don't forget to drop me a comment about what faction you're going to be hitting first in this major order, bots or squid. Also, if you are into Destiny 2, is the grass any greener on that side of the fence? You can drop me a comment about anything Helldivers or really anything gaming related, and of course I'll do my best to respond. Remember to hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to receive my future upload alerts. A massive thanks goes out to all of our current channel members, for without your support, this all gets a little harder to maintain. And until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.